about the Vikings backfield, but maybe not talk as much about that one guy who probably won't be in the Vikings backfield. Let's get into it here on the Viking Update Show. He's John Krawczynski from The Athletic and TalkNorth.com. He also does the John Krawczynski Show on the Timberwolves, which is one of our best and most successful shows at the network. I'm Jim Souhan from the Star Tribune and TalkNorth.com. We are presented to you by Giggly THC Beverages. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. We're also presented to you by OnX Hunt. Reminder about Giggly THC Beverages: low calorie, low price, make you feel great, no hangovers, natural fruit juices, few ingredients. Took it to the first Talk North Sports Report the other night, and everybody who tried it loved it. Great flavors, including my favorite, blueberry lemonade. I think Andrew likes pineapple mojito, raspberry ginger mule, blood orange. They have Arnie Palmer tea. They have raspberry tea. They have seltzers. It's just great stuff. I highly recommend it. Go to giggly.com. Use the promo code GIGLYNORTH, G-I-G-L-I North, for 50% off your first order. Who gives 50% off any order? That's pretty amazing. So thanks to Giggly. We do appreciate it. All right, John, because of the Aaron Rodgers mania, we really haven't talked a lot about one of my favorite signings for this team, and that is Jordan Mason as a co-running back, a 60-40, the 40% of the 60-40 split with Aaron Jones. I love this signing on so many levels. What did you think of it?
Yeah, huge. Technically a trade, right?
Yep.
So,
you're right. You're right. It is a trade. I was looking at the contract stuff, but you're right. It was a trade where they didn't give up much.
Yep. So yeah, I think they moved down 20 some spots and was able to get him. And I love the move. You look at a guy who's been really productive in a very good offense. But mostly what I like about it is it's a different dimension than Aaron Jones. So he is a punishing physical runner, and he's been very productive so far in his career, but he's also really young and proven enough. I mean, you can definitely go into the draft and draft a rookie running back, and we've seen plenty of instances where that works out very well. But in general, especially this year with the relatively low amount of draft picks that the Vikings have, to address a real area of need with a proven, young, productive runner to put next to Aaron Jones and probably eventually take over for Aaron Jones. I just don't know how you could have done a whole lot better than Kwesi did in giving up the very small amount of capital to bring him in on a team that was cutting costs, that's making moves. So you go and you pluck one out, a talented player out, and then you sign him to, for a reasonable deal as well. I mean, just couldn't really speak much more highly of that execution of that deal for Kwesi in an area of real need here.
Yes, absolutely. A couple network reminders. We just put out the first Talk North Sports Report. That was Mark Rosen, John Krawczynski, Michael Russo, Lavelle Neal, and myself doing a roundtable at Parlay Kitchen and Bar downtown Minneapolis. It was a great show. Thanks to everyone who made it possible, including Andrew Hyder, Vice President of Business Development. Thanks to Parlay Kitchen and Bar. Thanks to Giggly for sponsoring that show. Check it out. Also today, we're recording on Monday, Mark Rosen's Sports Monday show for this network is dropping. He's going to do obviously a show that is going to drop every Monday. There'll be some topical stuff. There'll be some of his conversations with people who's had relationships for years. He's going to bring you some really special stuff. We're very lucky to have Mark as part of this network. We're also very lucky to have John on the network. Did a great live show Saturday night at Head Flyer Brewing with Michael Grady. Michael's the best, and having John and Michael there in front of a really rabid Timberwolves fan group was a lot of fun. Check out that show as well on the John Krawczynski Show. Anytime you find a show you like at TalkNorth.com, please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen, and we do appreciate it. So I really followed Mason pretty closely last year, and I was fascinated to see how he would be different than Christian McCaffrey. Listen, nobody's quite like McCaffrey, other than Saquon Barkley. Nobody's quite like McCaffrey. Basically he's a slot receiver and a great running back, all packed into one, and he can do everything you want a running back to do. Mason isn't the receiving threat McCaffrey is. He's not the home run hitter McCaffrey is, but you want tough yards, you want broken tackles, you want somebody to run between the tackles, you want somebody to move the pile, you want somebody who's going to put a hurt on a defender, that's Jordan Mason. And I think, Aaron Jones had an excellent year last year. I think we both love him, and, as a guy and a player. And it feels like Mason is, if you were going to invent a back to share time with Aaron Jones, that back would look a lot like Jordan Mason.
Yeah, I think so, Jim. And I mean, one thing that we have seen, and one thing that Kevin O'Connell said at the end of the season, was the importance of increasing the physicality in the running game. And, you make the additions that they do up front on the offensive line to improve that group. And that is a big step in that direction, in addition to giving your quarterback more time, more protection, all of those things. But then, you bring in Jordan Mason as kind of this wrecking ball guy. He runs with an attitude. And I think that really does help an offense when you are trying to just really impose your will on an entire game. And Aaron Jones is incredibly valuable for them. I love the way that he turns what looks like a 1 or 2 yard gain into a 5 or 6 yard gain almost every time he touches the ball. And then I think Mason can do the same thing, but in a different way. Jones is a little just slipperier. He's savvier. Mason is, just more of a bulldozer. But also, I think that, he is not just a plow horse like big back. He is a guy that can be explosive for you in the running game as well. And so it just gives them, another dimension. And, you said it, but when you're building that running back room, you want to have kind of like a starting pitcher. You want to have different pitches to throw. You want to have, your fastball, your curveball, your changeup, and Mason is just one of those different pitches that, a defense gets used to tackling Aaron Jones for several series, and then Mason comes in and gives them an entirely different look. And I think he's a guy that's going to leave marks on a defense after he's done with them each game. And they're going to know that they played Jordan Mason. And so again, for his youth, he has young legs. This is a guy that is entering his prime. And, as Jones is exiting his, I think it's just, it's a perfect fit. It really is. And the other thing that does have to be emphasized is that by doing it, Kwesi gives himself so much more freedom in the draft. I think that, there was going to be, without this move, there was going to be some real pressure on him to look at getting a running back in the draft and making that choice and taking up one of the precious few draft picks that they have. This way, they don't have to do that. They don't have to feel like, that there's one position that they really just have to come out of the draft with. It gives them so much more flexibility. Now they can really play the board, a little more straight up and best player available, all of those things, because they addressed this really significant need with that trade. It's just, I think it's just smart business by Kwesi Adofo-Mensah.
Agreed. And there were some draft analysts who thought the Vikings might take a running back even as high as the first round. I always thought that was crazy, and I thought it would have been a bad move. But now there's not even the possibility or temptation, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I don't think at all. And I know it's a fairly deep running back class, and there's a lot of guys that teams like, both in the first round and then deeper into the draft. But yeah, now I'm at the point where I would be surprised if they take a running back at all, especially with just how few picks they have. Maybe next year you go back in and take it and take one. But this year with, continued needs in the defensive backfield and other places, I think that I would be really surprised if running back is one of their choices coming out of this. And I just do think that the more that you can alleviate that kind of pressure on you going into a draft, the better, the more freedom you have, the better off that you'll be. I think that, pressing and looking for the next running back to take over for Aaron Jones was going to be a big chore going into this draft. Now they don't have to do that. And I think that to say it, and we've kind of said it, but to not beat around the bush, I think Jordan Mason can be the starting running back here,
yes,
over the next 3-4 years. So they have that guy now. And it's just, this is not one of those, this isn't a Cam Akers. This isn't, kind of a bridge player, running back player. This is a guy who can really come in and be a featured back. If you need him right away, if Aaron Jones gets hurt, if he wears down, or if in a year or two, you're ready to kind of just, Aaron is ready to retire and you're ready to pass the baton on, then you go, okay, we have Jordan Mason. He is in-house and ready to go.
Yes. I have a couple more thoughts on the signing and what it means, and how about how people are now looking at running backs around the league. First, though, I have to ask you the question, have you ever driven past a piece of land and wondered who owns that? Or maybe you need to know exactly where a property line runs. That's where Onyx Hunt comes in. And it's not just for hunters. There are folks using Onyx for their jobs every day throughout the country, from farmers and ranchers mapping out their fields, wildland firefighters navigating rough terrain, to construction workers needing to know who owns what property. This app offers something for everyone. If you need the best land ownership maps, aerial imagery, and property boundaries in your pocket, Onyx Hunt is the tool for the job. Try it free for 7 days. Download Onyx Hunt in the app or Google Play Store, or visit onyxmaps.com/hunt to get started. Thanks also to our host, one of our major sponsors across the network, Aquarius Home Services.
Scott for Aquarius Home Services. They say knowledge is power, and power is having a great plumber and electrician on speed dial. Enter Aquarius Home Services. Whether your toilet's bubbling like a science experiment or your lights are blinking like a strobe light, we have you covered. Plus, get $98 off any electrical or plumbing repair. Schedule today at AquariusHomeservices.com and let the experts handle the chaos. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended.
And the other aspect of Jordan Mason being here, in addition to everything you've already said about him, is he gives you a hammer at the goal line. He gives you a hammer inside the 10. Aaron Jones is a good short yardage back because he's savvy, he's smart, and he hits the hole fast. But Jordan Mason, if there's not something there, might score a touchdown for you.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes in those situations, it is just about who is stronger and tougher. And I think that there are few running backs in the league really that have pack the same kind of punch that Jordan Mason does. And so, to be able to go down there and know that you have a dude who, if he's even if he's in space, or if he's, if it's a tight space to work in and he has to run someone over to get into the end zone, he will do that, and he will do that gladly. And, I'm trying to think. It's been a little while since we've had a real punishing dude like that here in this Vikings backfield. I'm thinking, I'm sure I'm missing someone right away, but of late, it's been shifty, it's been speedy, it's been dynamic. There's been, guys with all sorts of different skill sets, but I think Mason is a rarity even in purple lately, of just someone who's, I'm going to lower my shoulder and I'm going to go just run right through you. And he's a guy that can do that. And that's really effective down in the red zone, but down in that inside the 5-yard line, especially.
Yes. And he reminds me, this is not exactly, a straight comparison. I don't want to make it sound like it actually is a full comparison, but it does kind of remind me of one of the big mistakes I made in football analysis early in my career. I loved the way Leroy Hoard was playing for the Vikings, and Robert Smith was a home run hitter more than a guy who could grind out yards. And I actually at one point thought, well, maybe they're better with Leroy Hoard in the backfield. And I was wrong. No, it wasn't. But the nice thing about Mason is he can get you. Listen, he's not Robert Smith, and he's not, but he can get you 20, 30, 40. He can break enough tackles to get you. They might not go 80, but he can get you a significant gain.
Yeah, I do think that it is a separator. I mean, Hoard, he had the famous quote, right? If you need 3 yards, or if you need 4 yards, if you need 3 yards, I can get you 3 yards. If you need 4 yards, I can get you 3 yards. Something like that. Yeah. So, I think Mason is definitely more dynamic than that. He has got some explosiveness to him. So he is capable of, the 15-yard, the 20-yard runs. Is he a guy that's going to break off, 60 or 70-yard runs? Is he Saquon Barkley? No, he's probably not. But he has plenty of juice. Like he's not just a plodding, fall forward and get you a couple type of a runner, but he is more than capable of getting you those tough 2 to 3 yards when you really need it. When the pile doesn't move in front of him quite as much from the push of the offensive line, he's a guy that can move the pile on his own. And so I just think he's a really nice mix of physical punishing, but also with enough electricity in those legs to get you some big gains when they are available. And so just a really solid, strong, good back to have. And I think he's going to bring a lot to the table in this offense, playing, alongside Jefferson and Hawkinson and all of those and all of the talent around them as well. And with this upgraded offensive line, I think it's something to be pretty excited about.
No doubt. One more thought on two different subjects dealing with the Vikings offensive backfield. First, want to let you hear from Michael Russo, our colleague at TalkNorth.com, on Clamshell Beach Resorts.
Hey, have you been dreaming of a lake cabin lifestyle with boating, fishing, and family fun in northern Minnesota? Well, lately I've thought a lot about how cool it would be to have a getaway like so many Minnesotans. And if you're like me, you probably think that owning your own lakeside getaway is beyond your budget. Well, if you think lake cabin real estate prices keep going up, well, think again. This is Russo, and I'm here to tell you there is an affordable way to enjoy a cabin lifestyle and all that goes with it. And yes, I said affordable. I founded a Clamshell Beach Resort, which is located on the Whitefish chain of 14 lakes for you and your family to enjoy. Here's how. Clamshell has lake homes that offer deeded fractional ownership, and the keywords there are deeded and fractional. You own it. Imagine having 5 weeks a year to enjoy Clamshell with its beaches, pool, and lodge that's full of kids' activities. Is golf your game? There's a great golf course right across the road. Like winter sports? Well, you can go ice fishing, cross-country skiing, or snowmobiling right out the door at Clamshell. And there's no maintenance, no grass mowing, no snow removal. It's done all for you. And you can own a share of Clamshell Beach Resort at an affordable price. To learn more about ownership opportunities at Clamshell Beach Resort, go to cottagesonwhitefish.com or contact Pat Egan at 612-220-9819. That's cottagesonwhitefish.com or Pat Egan at 612-220-9819.
Been sponsored for a long time by Scott Dayton's Twill in the Edina Galleria. I love that place. I buy all my clothes there. I've had 3 occasions to be out in public recently. The Talk North Sports Report at Parlay Kitchen and Bar, the John Krawczynski Show at Head Flyer Brewing, and the Timberwolves game on Sunday night. John and I went ahead and brawled in the media area just to get in the spirit of the action. But everything I wore was Twill. Quarter zips, sport coats, dress shirts, casual shirts, Brax pants, really comfortable jeans that don't look like dad jeans, really nice casual yet upscale shoes. Everything I wore, I got at Twill. I recommend you going to Twill. If you buy something at Twill, it's going to last you. You can do what I used to do and just buy kind of the cheap stuff, and you're throwing away after a year or two, or it's shredding in the dryer. It just doesn't last. It doesn't look good. It doesn't keep its form. That is not the case. Scott handpicks everything in his shop. He travels the globe. He's picked out stuff in Vietnam, some really cool trinkets and belts he's gotten in Vietnam. He travels the globe. He is very particular about what is in his shop. He knows all about the manufacturer, the makers. He has people coming by, to talk about the brands. It's a laid back place. Go in, tell them we sent you, and have a good conversation with Scott about sports or clothes, twillmn.com. Also, Natrium, I keep using their stuff. As I said, for me, I lean toward the sleep gummies and the roll-on bombs for sore joints and muscles, and they serve me very well. But you might find something different. You might have fun with the candies or the gummies. If you have any gut issues, you might like the gut oils. The bombs work almost immediately, like 15 minutes after you put them on, they start to work. There are so many different options for you, so many different ways they can affect your life positively. You should go to Natrium in St. Louis Park, go to the mothership, talk to the sales representatives, get a feel for what they have right dosage, right flavor, right delivery system, you will enjoy it. And then once you know what you like, you can go to Natrium.com, Natreum.com, and order online. Highly recommend it. And thanks for supporting the sponsors that support us. Other thought on running backs is I'm really glad that the NFL is doing the typical pendulum shift back toward running games and running backs, because I still think, as much as we all love to see the ball in the air and we love to see these incredible quarterbacks and wide receivers making spectacular plays, there's still something primal about a run, handing the ball to a guy and saying, go figure out a way to beat those 11 guys. Whether it's physically or with speed, there's something thrilling about seeing a great running back, break through the line of scrimmage and have to navigate the secondary. And I love the fact that Barkley and Derrick Henry and Aaron Jones and, everybody who ended up having a big year last year has kind of made the running back more relevant.
Yeah, I really do think it had to happen some way, somehow, Jim, because, certainly the explosion of the passing game has been thrilling. It has been good for business and the box office and the ratings, and it's very exciting, all of those things. But I want to see in the NFL some variance. I want to see teams that are more ground and pound and have a different personality. And it's not, all just who can spread you out the most and throw the quick screen and get a few completions down the field and take advantage of some penalties and do it all through the air. I like that some teams have reverted back and are having success doing it, because that just means that you're going to have other teams try to copy that. And the more variance that we have in approaches offensively, I think that's better for the game. I think it makes it interesting and it makes it exciting. And there is something just innate about the running game with football. It does just harken back to a different time, and there is some nostalgia to it. But also, I think one of the things that is evident and clear is I think that having a strong running game is more sustainable game to game, week to week, no matter the weather, no matter if your quarterback is a little off that day. It's a lot harder for defenses to prepare for. And so it gives offenses something that is, I think, a little just more consistent than the big passing and throwing it all over the field. And so I think smart teams, including the Vikings, clearly are going to try to reincorporate and revive that part of their game. I do think at one point, Jim, that Kevin O'Connell himself probably got a little bit too far away from the running game and maybe took the running back a little too for granted when they started a couple of years ago with Alexander Mattison as their featured back. And good on the Vikings for just recognizing that and saying, hey, we have to do things differently here. So it starts with Aaron Jones. Now they go to Jordan Mason. And it is clear that going into this next season, that the running game is not going to be something they do begrudgingly or something they do, just every once in a while to try and throw things off of the passing game. It's going to be a bedrock part of the Vikings offense. And it's great that is here. And it's great that it's kind of going that way league wide as well.
Yes. All right. Let's do our weekly Aaron Rodgers update. It sounds like, as we talk here on Monday morning, it really sounds like he and the Steelers are going to be waiting until late April. If you wait until after the draft, then Rodgers knows if they've drafted a quarterback who he would have to compete with or who he would have to, maybe be even asked to mentor. I don't think he's interested in that stuff. And the Steelers, if they wait until the Tuesday after the draft to sign Rodgers, then don't risk losing compensatory draft picks, which is a big thing. I really think we're at the point now where Rodgers is either going to sign with the Steelers, in May, or he's going to retire.
It seems that way. Yeah. And, when you look at it, I don't see a scenario right now, Jim, where the Vikings would get back into this in late April or May. To me, it feels like if they felt they needed to go revisit this situation, that probably wouldn't come until July, August, something like that, after they've seen JJ McCarthy for a while, after they go through, training camp and all of those things. And so I guess we'll just see on that front. But the way that I read it right now, Jim, is that Rodgers doesn't really want to play for the Steelers. If he did, he would have already signed, and he wouldn't have cared really whether they drafted someone or not, because he'd probably sign a 1 or 2 year deal max, and then he would go off into the sunset. And so, I guess we'll see what the Steelers do in the draft. But if Rodgers is waiting for that, it all tells me that, he's not really excited about being there. And if he's not excited about being there, he shouldn't be doing it at all. And so, I guess we'll find out. But at this point, with where it is right now, I guess I'd be a little surprised if he signed with Pittsburgh.
I still think I go back to just looking at through the eyes of a malignant narcissist, egomaniac, conspiracy theorist. And if he doesn't sign now, the longer he doesn't sign, the longer his name stays in the news cycle, and he gets to be the controller of information about himself. He gets to manipulate, the market, and he gets to miss off-season stuff. I just don't think he has any interest in. It's like, I don't think he and Favre are very similar in a lot of ways. But the one commonality they have is they didn't want to do the off-season stuff. They really prefer not to go to training camp. So if he delays, and the Steelers aren't going to solve their quarterback problem. They're not going to get a starter,
right?
A game one starter in the draft. They're not going to sign anybody in the open market who's going to be somebody they really want to start in game one. Rodgers knows that. So I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not going to make any predictions, but I would not be surprised if Rodgers signs with the Steelers way later in the game than anybody anticipated.
Yeah. And, that is the interesting wrinkle in this is, like, I agree with you, Jim, that I don't think he wants to do off-season stuff at all. And I think that's frankly one of the reasons that his play has fallen off in the last couple of years. But it would seem to me, even in Aaron Rodgers' egomaniacal world, it would seem to me to be a difficult thing to pull off and say, I'm signing with a new team. I'm coming off of a very disappointing run in New York. People think that I'm washed up and I don't have anything left. And I'm still going to skip all of the off-season stuff, with my new team, the OTAs, the mini camps, like all of those things, and just come in to training camp because that's all I need. That would, to me, that if I'm a team, whether I'm the Vikings or the Steelers or whoever, and if I get an inkling or a whiff that is sort of in his thought process, that tells me right there, I don't want anything to do with him. Because the one way that this could work out decently for Rodgers and for whatever team brings him in is if he is in that mode of F you, you don't believe in me, I'm going to show you, I'm determined, I'm motivated to do all this stuff. And so him trying to weasel out of as much of the off-season stuff as possible would tell me he's not in that frame of mind. And if he's not in that frame of mind, I don't think I would be interested in bringing him in. And so, that's just something that pops in my head is like, the one thing about Brett Favre when the Vikings signed him the first time, not the second time, because the second time he did not want to play. He didn't want to be in any of that.
Just about the money.
It was just, the second time was just about the money. The first time was at least, and I know they signed him late in the deal, but it was, no, I'm coming in and I'm showing you all that I'm not old anymore, that I can do this still. And I don't think that's it. I worry that that's not Aaron Rodgers' front of mind right now.
No, I agree with everything you just said. The reason I could still see it happening, even though it shouldn't probably happen, is the Steelers have left themselves with no other options.
Yeah. And 100%. And that's, for sure the Steelers, and even if the Vikings were to revisit, it would be because they believe they're in dire straits with the quarterback, whether JJ McCarthy gets injured again, whether it's just that he's super really young and he's just not quite ready for a roster this good, something late in the off season, like, man, we've got to do something here to address this. Same with the Steelers. Like the only way a decision to bring in a very polarizing quarterback that is this old, that is coming off such an underwhelming performance in New York, is you are desperate. And the Vikings are not desperate right now. The Steelers just may well be. And so that we'll see how that all goes.
Yes. Well, we're going to be talking about him for a while, just the way it is. We'll try not to overdo it, but it is infuriating as it can be. It's also perpetually interesting on some level. So
and one thing, Jim, one thing that was notable today, everyone's kind of gathered. The league is gathered for league meetings and stuff. And Kevin O'Connell, I think he's going to address the Vikings media press corps at some point. We're recording this on Monday today, but he sat down with Kevin Clark from ESPN, who's really, really good. And he was very much in I'm really confident and excited about JJ McCarthy. He's had a great offseason. So he's already shifting the tenor of the discussion around McCarthy pretty significantly. You and I both had kind of wondered, why the tepid sort of endorsement of McCarthy right now. Kwesi was that way last week. And that kind of all just led to more questions. And it seems like O'Connell is coming out and putting the full weight of his voice behind McCarthy right now, which I think is important at this stage of the offseason and after the dalliances and all of those things, to get that kind of messaging out that, hey, we're behind this kid, even if that's not exactly 100% accurate and it changes over the course of the summer. Just back your guy right now. And it seems like O'Connell's doing that.
Yes. Well said, and a good update. All right. We'll tell you what more we learn from these league meetings next week. There will always be intrigue. We're going to start talking about the draft. The Vikings are in a fascinating position there. Basically, thank you for listening. We do appreciate it. Check out the John Krawczynski Show on the Timberwolves. Great show. Check out Mark Rosen's new show, Mark Rosen Sports Monday. Check out the Talk North Sports Report, which we put out on our feeds. I had a couple people at the Wolves game come up last night and tell me they listened and they loved it. I think this market needs that kind of a roundtable with true experts, and we had a blast doing it. So thanks to everyone. We do appreciate you listening. Let people know that we exist and that we've brought on Mark Rosen, and we'll talk to you next week.